thought covering it in book pages would be quite nice and interesting, but the books I chose were Heart of Darkness and King Solomon's Mines, which goes on about Africa in the late 1800s, early 1900s, so there's lots of language in there which isn't politically nice, particularly these days. So I'm going to completely overhaul this one and start again. So I've sanded back, or I've put on a layer of paint and then sanded back, so it's pretty much as flat as I can make it for the design I'm going to go for. I'm going to turn this one into a I'm not sure actually if I'm going to make it into a painter's or artist's box with contents inside, or leave it plain on the inside, so that's a decision to be made later on. So I've also got a bag of these shell pendants. They're about half an inch in diameter, and I've got various colours. Not quite enough to do a full spectrum colour across, or any kind of pattern that I can work out. I sat for a night just trying to make a pattern that would work all the way across, but I haven't got enough of all the colours to do that. So I'm going to randomly place them in a grid over here using a paint gluing technique. So instead of actually adding glue, I'm going to use a fairly thick layer of acrylic paint and use that as the base, and then as the acrylic naturally shrinks, it will hold everything in and glue. So that's the basic idea of it. So I've masked off the centre, so it is dead square on this section. What I'm going to do is work on two sections that are diagonally opposite, and then work out on the other two. I find that makes it easier to keep it all square and balanced, especially starting in the middle as well, so they don't end up being askew to one side or the other. Because I'm trying not to create a pattern, it is a case of pick them up at random and stick them on. Trying to keep them square to each other and not to think about the pattern so much. Just nice and neat and square. Should be enough variation here so you don't end up with two colours the same together. So that's as far as I can go for this for the minute. So I'm going to pull off this tape so I've got a nice even edge, and this way I can see if I've overshot any underneath the paint as well. I think I'm about right. And then once it's all completely dry, I can use that as a guide to do the other section. So I have finished the top of this box, and it's completely covered in these little shell pendants. The paint is a little bit bumpy around the outside, but I like that as texture. And I've left ridges along the side where the paper used to be, so again you've got texture there. So all I need to do here is finish and paint the inside and then line that. But as I was working on the base, ribbon wrapping that with a corded base here, I thought it just doesn't work. It fits fine, or it sort of fits fine, but it seems to be too heavy a top to go with quite a pretty decorative bottom. So I've got another blank box. So what I'm going to do is trade over the lid and the base here. So for this one, I'm going to just paint that either gold possibly, or black, just as a plain base, and then line out the inside. And then on this one I'm going to ribbon wrap the sides some more possibly, and then line the inside. This one I'm going to make into a writing slope, so it's going to be hinged upwards with a couple of rods in to hold it up, and then fill the inside with some artist tools and that kind of thing to sell on. So yeah, so it's now gone from one box to two. Okay, looking at the general colours on the top here, I don't think putting more black on is going to be appropriate for the bottom, but there is a lot of kind of oranges and browns and those sort of shades in there, so I'm going to go with some kind of copper in acrylic. And I'm just going to kind of wash it on rather than do it a full paint, because I feel like some of this wood grain to show through. So I'm using a bit of cut sponge and some kitchen roll. So, and you need a real kind of a small dab of paint. Work it in. I'm trying to get fairly even. Not a problem if it's not, because with sanding it will even out anything that's majorly different. I think. So like that. Just enough of a wash to give it a nice sheen, and it's thin enough that it's virtually dry to start with, so there's no issue about making a mess on the top. Okay, so I've laid a sheet of wadding in here, and I've just kind of cut it to the size and left the corners in at the minute. I haven't trimmed them out, so it just fits in here. And I've picked out this upholstery fabric. It's got a nice colour to it that goes well with the bronze on the side, and picks out the bronze colours on the lid of the box. So now it's just a case of kind of trimming things in and fitting them in, and then pinning around the outside. So for a corner, you can see on this corner, you can see I've just folded in the edges together, so I've got a pinch of corner here, and if I just cut that straight down like that, I can now push that in, and there's zero bulk in the corner of the box. Just move the clamps over and just hold it there. That will maintain tension for the rest of it. So I'll just do that all the way around. So now starting on the fabric. So this came as a scrap already cut into an 18-inch square. So if I start at the middle and just turn over that edge, balance that, yeah, that works. Remove all the clips on this edge. If I tuck back the sides I'm not working on, tuck them down, and bring this over, and just fold that over the top of the wadding here by about ½ inch or so. It doesn't have to be exact. And just clip that in. Do that all the way along. And you're going to want 2 or 3 clips at this point. Don't worry so much about the corners. Just want to make sure it fits in, it's cut to size. Okay. Just like that. So do that all the way around. A lot of bulk in this corner. This fabric's quite thick, so what I'm going to do is use the wadding as an outline. See here, when you pull it back, you've got a natural V shape here. So if you cut along between those 2 points, that reduces the bulk of fabric and makes it a lot easier to get in there nice and neatly. Okay, so it's all set in quite neatly, so all you need to do now is go around and place some small pins or glue, whichever you feels easiest for you, around the perimeter. I'm going to do. Okay, so I've painted the top of this box white, 3 or 4 coats of just plain white acrylic. and I've started to mask off areas using sticky bit plastic. So I don't know if that's going to come out particularly well in this light. Probably not, but we'll give it a go. So cut my pieces out, and a good tip is to kind of find a corner somewhere and just fold back the lining and then lay it in, press down the bit that's exposed and then pull off the backing and run your finger round the shape. Better as it's easy, it's like writing again. Just make sure it's sitting smooth. So I've decided to go with rainbow colours underneath the black, so I'm going to start with yellow, orange and red. Okay, so these colour patches are all completely dry, so I'm going to stick on a whole load of little squares of sticky back plastic, and once they're on I can then start on the next layer of colour. Okay, this has had 2 coats of acrylic and it's still slightly sticky, which is fine for this stage, so I'm just going to start removing the plastic and seeing how it comes out underneath. Okay, so one box has become 2, and it's both waiting for a final coat of varnish or resin. I tend to do that in a big batch. So this one, nice design, and for those who don't know Latin, this means slip of the pen. So it's not hinged on yet, so that can come off like that. And I've lined this with the plain upholstery velvet. There's no padding in here because I don't necessarily think it's required. The crossover points I've reinforced with buttons and nails really, and I've got 2 stand-up legs that hold the top up on that one with the fabulous ribbon wrapping. I will show that in a future video, so don't worry about that. And then this one, as I said, I'm not resining until it's warmer, so that's to be done. And fabulous lining, and I've just painted that black at the minute. I'm tempted to put something on the inside, haven't decided yet, so there you go, one box becomes 2.